my name is Reina and this is Chow and Tell. Welcome to episode 20 of the show. Very, very happy to be saying that. It's been an amazing journey. I don't know how it happened, but I've just stood aside and watched the magic. So thank you all for being with me through it all, and I hope to continue to grow through this wonderful, wonderful process. And part of what it's been, the journey's been, is me also learning. By the way, I have to disclose that I'm a Taurian. Taurians tend to be very, very stubborn, very strong-willed, and one of the things we tend not to do is ask for help. I have been a DIYer, an adamant DIYer since I was a kid. My mom complains of how I used to take 20 minutes to tie my own shoelaces when I was 2 years old because I refused to get anybody's help. Now that has an upside to it, but very often, more often than not for me, later in life now, it's sometimes come to pass that I think maybe it would be good for me to ask for help for some things. And I've learned that the hard way, but I've learned it slowly but surely in my own stubborn way. And so I wanted to focus today's episode. I was actually inspired by, there's a very old quote that goes, God helps those who help themselves. And whether or not you're religious, I'm not, but I do like that phrase, but I've twisted it around a little bit and I say God helps those who ask for help. So my episode today was really focused on asking for help and seeing what you can find out there. If you're looking for something, keep seeking it and there will be help for you. And today my guests are people just like that. They help other people achieve what maybe they're not able to do by themselves. So please, without further ado, welcome my guests on the show, Jody and Ashley. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, thank you.
It's great to have you on here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. And this is really exciting. And a lot of the show, many of the episodes have been about serendipity, how I've found, come across really, really interesting people doing amazing work. And my story with finding Jody and Ashley, who are business partners, and we'll talk about what they do in a moment. An old friend of mine who was actually my TA in college, Pete. We have to give a shout out to Pete.
Yeah,
Hi, Pete.
We love you.
So Pete was my TA in college, and then we went on to be friends. And I've traveled a bit, and I met up with him in Spain when he was living in Spain. He's a diver and has really interesting work. He works with butterfly fish, which are the Nemo fish. So he's always been a very active person, and it turns out when I moved to Cambridge last year, he's moved to Cambridge, so he's my neighbor in Cambridge. And I ran into him in the grocery store one day, and he says, I always ask, I'm nosy, so I'm like, hey, what do you buy? What do you shop? Let me see what's in your cart. So we got talking about food as usual, and he disclosed to me, he said, he's a bachelor, he lives alone, he travels a lot. So it's a very independent lifestyle, but it can also be really kind of hard to get into a routine.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I got. And he said, I've just been struggling with my food. And I'm tired of what I'm eating, and I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm stuck somewhere. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, well, what I did is ask for help. And he came to you guys. Yeah. And he was, I think, on the tail end of what he had done with the work he had done with you. And he was radiant. He was so excited about this full life transformation that he was going through. And it's all thanks to the help that you guys gave him. So I wanted to immediately, I said, I have to meet Jody and Ashley and let other people know of this amazing work that you do. So tell us about what you do.
Thank you, Reina. So we run a wellness company. We run a virtual wellness company, and primarily we offer a 14-day whole food detox. And that is what Pete participated in. And so it's not detoxing like, well, what do you think of when you think of detoxing?
Oh, I mean, I can run the gamut in my head. You could be like on a hospital bed, like with the shakes, like they have in movies, or just drinking weird bitter juice for like 2 weeks straight of juice, which is why I'm like,
not eating, starving,
or like really like hardcore spiritual kind of deep meditation, which I've done some of that, but I don't do it all the time because it's like, yeah, it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think of.
Okay. So our most people think of like serious restriction when it comes to detoxing.
Yeah.
So our detox, we like to call it a detox for foodies. Because
Yes, please.
because you're actually eating the entire time. You're eating real food the entire time.
Yeah.
You should never be feeling deprived.
Yeah.
And so basically we're taking people through 3 phases of clean eating. We're getting people off all the processed junk.
Yeah.
That is most accessible, most affordable at this point, and we're getting people back in the kitchen eating real food the way that our grandmothers ate.
I love to hear that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so people can completely transform, like you said about Pete, in 2 weeks. It's amazing how much can happen for people in simply 2 weeks of getting off gluten, sugar, alcohol, coffee, dairy. It doesn't sound good, but we promise you
there is still food to eat when you take that all out.
I believe that. I think actually through doing the show, I've discovered so much more interesting stuff about, people's approach to cleaning up their diets in different ways, eliminating things or substituting things or sort of trading up, which I'm a big believer in. Don't get rid of something entirely, but you trade up.
Yes.
So tell me some of that. Like maybe you can tell, like
upgrading is a big
upgrading. That's the word.
Of ours, and so
like going business class, instead of flying economy.
or like Beyonce, So upgrading is a big thing, and so for us, for example, we'll talk about it later. But desserts, we love chocolate. We love desserts, and when you're trying to diet, a lot of people say, right, no more sugar, but that's a big point of failure, right? And so
for a lot of people,
an upgrade is raw desserts where you're using still clean ingredients. You're not using processed sugar. You're using honey or dates. You're sweetening things with natural products, but you're still making things that taste delicious.
Yeah, we think the key is, like Ashley said, when we see people fail at eating a clean diet, they usually fail when it comes to the sweets because they feel like, I have this intense sugar craving, and then they end up binging, eating even worse than they did before.
Especially because when you break it, then you've just got kind of like, well, to heck with it.
Exactly.
And then you go all the way to the other extreme.
Exactly. So
I know this is a big sugar culture here. Like there's a lot of sugar in everything. So it's hard. People must be coming in, like most people, sort of with some level of sugar addiction without even realizing it. I don't know.
Sugar addiction's real. There's a stat I love to give out, is that they studied it and they actually proved it to be more addictive, 8 times more addictive than cocaine.
What?
Yeah, with rats. And so the rats would go for the sugar water versus the cocaine water.
Even previously, cocaine addicted rats would go for the sugar water.
Okay, listen to this. I have goosebumps right now. I'm kind of freaked out by that.
Yeah.
That's pretty strange. That's unexpected, and that's pretty heavy.
Yeah. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle to get off sugar. So the first couple of days of our program are not fun. People are usually feeling exhausted, headaches, going through actual withdrawal symptoms.
It's withdrawal from sugar.
Yeah.
The other white stuff. Oh my goodness.
But we teach them for sure how to upgrade those choices so that they're feeling totally satisfied with their new choices. And we always say the key is to make the healthy desserts more appealing than the junk that you're used to eating. Because, if you have the choice between like an apple and a Twix or a Snickers, you know what I mean? You're always going to go for the candy bar.
I like apple. But it's changed though. It's changing as I'm changing my diet. I'm seeing that I prefer, like lately in the last couple of years, like I crave cold fruit more than I do even chocolate or processed like cakey kind of things for the most part. And it's weird. It freaks me out. Because it's not, people
why don't I want
the cake? Like it's a mental thing as well. You're just
but it's real. Like your taste buds actually change when you get off processed food, and they actually appreciate real food.
So what kind of people come to this program? Like, do they, are they just like beaten down and broken into bins? Like, please help. Like, how do they find you?
A lot of our clientele, it ranges from 25 to 65. It's a pretty broad range, but a lot of them are already aware. They're busy professionals, and they just know that something's missing. And
And they must, I think it's one of those things, like when you're so you start to become open to change, and you start looking for assistance with some aspect of your life. Usually, I know for me, it's like when you come up against a wall, you just feel like I don't know any further how to do this on my own. You know, and sometimes it can be painful. You're like literally banging your head against the wall. Like I'm frustrated and annoyed and stressed out, and I know something's got to shift, and I don't know how.
And I think a lot of people they still want to do it on their own. You know, they're like, why do I need to pay for someone to you know, get this done? But if you're really honest with yourself and you ask yourself, how's it working? You know, how is it going doing it on my own? And a lot of people will look at their life and realize, I've been trying to do this on my own for 20 years or 40 years and it's not getting any better. So part of our program, there's a community aspect to our program. So when people are in the program, they're in a private Facebook group with everyone else that's doing the program. And so that for us, I think, is the game changer. You know, like when we ask people, what gets you to go to the gym? What gets you to eat well? They always say doing it with a friend.
It's a group. I think that the power of the group is really, really strong and should never be underestimated. I've had that experience also in other aspects of my life. And it's literally like a miracle. You're like the same thing you're trying to do on your own, and you're doing the same thing with a bunch of other people that you trust, that you know you're in confidence with. And somehow, and I don't know that anyone's figured out why, there's some aspect of accountability of support, of a little bit of guilt and shame, even like, oh, I gotta show up for this thing, or so and so, I promise so and so I'm gonna come. So you know, and you feel like you're not alone.
Exactly. We've actually, somebody said to us, you know, and because the program's virtual, a lot of these people we never meet in person. You know, sometimes we do, but we had one person say to us, you know, even when I was really struggling, I thought to myself, I gotta do it for J&A. We're known as Team J&A. So, you know, and we had never even met her, but just that level of, even virtually, that level of accountability really pushed her to follow through.
That's great. And so I want to get a little more personal here. How did each of you get into doing this? Like, did somebody help you? Did you have a struggle in your journey? And like, how did you come to be doing this? Maybe I can start with
I grew up, I was one of the lucky ones. I grew up with a mother who was a total health nut.
Well, it can sometimes backfire. I know people who have that happen and they hate, you know, the whole thing is like...
It's true. It's true. I definitely, when we were kids, my brother and I used to, whenever we'd go to our friend's house and they had like just very basic foods that most kids grew up on, like Lucky Charms cereal and, you know, things like that. We'd have our hands in the...
You're like,
yeah, exactly. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
The cocaine rat.
You became a cocaine rat.
I know what you mean.
So definitely when we were younger, I think, you know, it definitely backfired a little bit. And even recently I saw a friend who I hadn't seen since I was like 13. And she's like, Jody, I can't believe you're doing what you're doing, because when you were 13, you would have done anything but what your mom was doing, you know?
You see, well, that's just part of, I think, being a teenager.
Exactly. So it wasn't until later on in life that I appreciated it, but when I did find that sense of appreciation, I was so glad that this all was, it felt like second nature to me to be having these conversations around health. I really was inspired by my mother my whole life.
Oh, so, that's cool.
That was kind of my entry point, and it took a lot of twists and turns in order for me to get where I am today.
Do you have some kind of like, how did you study this, or is it like your own self-study?
No. So Ashley and I both went to a school in New York called the Institute of Integrative Nutrition.
Oh, cool. Okay, I've heard of that.
Have you heard of it? A lot of people are going to that school now. It's actually the largest nutrition school in the world now.
Okay.
And it's a much more holistic perspective on nutrition.
Okay.
And that's kind of where the movement of nutrition is headed. It's less about, it's not about counting calories and not about very restrictive meal plans, but it's really about looking at each person as an individual and not just looking at the food, but looking into what else is stressing them out. And that's the part that I think Ashley really lights Ashley and I up now. And that's been really influential in our lives and giving us the courage to kind of really seek out what we truly want in our lives. And so we definitely use food as the entry point to figuring out what's going to be the best experience for you in your life. But that's the entry point, and then we start to tap into, you know, your career, your relationships, your spiritual life. And so it gets really interesting quickly.
That's super interesting, definitely. Tell me about your journey, Ashley.
So mine's a little different. I didn't have a health nut of a mother, but I definitely had one who was healthy. So we never had soda, we never had chips, and she baked a lot. So my sweet tooth was there very early on. and I used food as comfort, and it was really my crutch. And so as I went through my journey, I had, IBS and stomach issues and sugar addiction, big time. And for me, yoga and gaining awareness of why I was using food and really what it meant to me was a big catalyst for me. And then cleaning up my diet was almost a pattern interrupt. It helped me break the compulsion and really just make me feel free, so I could do what Jody was mentioning of seeing what else in my life I want.
That's amazing. It really does sound, now when I said the hospital bed detox, what they have for like addiction or whatever, it's almost like the same thing in that, breaking the cycle, and then that's just the entry point. Like stopping the rats, getting the rats of the cocaine first to see then what is it that's triggering their anxiety that's causing them to use whatever, with the rats or the people or
Well, I think the problem is when people are like physically bogged down by whether it's joint pain or chronic headaches or chronic fatigue, which is a huge one these days. People are really having trouble waking up and then falling asleep at their desk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And when you're bogged down by all that, what are the chances that you're going to have energy to better your relationships or to, seek spiritual practice or to get more creative in your life? You just don't have the energy for it. So people kind of clean up their physical experience in a number of different ways, whether it's through yoga or through diet. We happen to use diet as that entry point.
And which is a great entry point, because I think, food is a good, I think so anyway. Everyone needs to eat. Not everyone loves to eat, or some people struggle with, loving it and hating it at the same time. So it's a really, it's a much more universal practice, if you will, than say something. Yoga, for example, it's getting very popular, but it's still not for everyone. If you don't do yoga today, you'll be okay. But if you don't eat for a while, you will probably not be okay. So, that's really interesting. So and then you both kind of found each other and started helping each other on this journey together as well. So that's
absolutely.
What are some of the big switches that you've made for people? Like instead of X, try Y. Like you were talking about upgrading.
Okay.
I think gluten and pasta and carbs is the big thing for people, right? It's comfort food, and so teaching them about quinoa and amaranth and other options, even brown rice, other options that just might make you feel better and give you nutrients versus pasta, which is pretty empty. That's one small example.
That's a big one, the gluten and the heavy carbs. And the other biggest one is probably the sweeteners, like we said. So people are used to the sugar, the corn syrup, these really intense sweeteners that wreak havoc on your body. So if you can realize that you can have sweetness still in your life by having something like raw honey or dates. Have you ever had a date?
Oh yeah.
You
actually no, it's part of our culture also. In India, sort of the Middle East, and it's come through India as well. And I remember actually for my wedding, we gave away favors, which were not normally people give very, very sweet sweets as wedding favors. And I don't know, I think my mom found these women who made these amazing date treats, and I tasted it. I was like, it's got to be this. And they were like chopped dates, or maybe they were date halves, and they were stuffed inside with pistachios and almonds, and then mushed back together again, and then rolled in sesame seeds. And so it was like a little truffle size, and they were delicious. And I think we ate a lot of them, and we didn't send all the favors out, but they were really yum.
Absolutely.
And dates,
most people that we come into contact with have never tried a date,
especially here. It's a newer thing.
And when people do, they're like, wow, that's really sweet.
And they're very sweet. They actually have pretty high palm sugar, date sugar. And it's actually very sweet.
So the sweeteners are a big one, and what we do is we teach people either to eat them on their own, like dates, or you can have a spoonful of raw honey, or you can use those products to make like a little bit more complex raw desserts. And we'll share one with you later on. But
they have treats.
But we try to keep our recipes super simple, so it's accessible to everyone, and you can whip it up in 10 minutes, keep it in the refrigerator, and have it ready to go when you're having one of those intense cravings.
So what about like now, say people come for this 2-week program, as in they take part in. And then how do they leave with like culinary skills of some sort, or like if they're uncomfortable in the kitchen to begin with? I'm not sure. I'm sure you have the gamut. It runs the gamut. But how do you get people to switch their cooking and even shopping for food
Yeah.
patterns? Like, how do you do
So we think of our program really as a course, an online course, and so there's modules in the course that teach you how to prep the food and make the food, and we give you an exact shopping list.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of our recipes, like Jody mentioned, are so simple. So if you're not in the kitchen making a lot of complex meals, so massage kale is an example.
Massage
Yeah.
kale?
Have you ever massaged your kale?
No.
Gave it a little.
Well, I massage everything I cook, so my friend's like, you are really weird. I was like, but feel the rice. It's so nice.
You'd like this then.
Yeah.
So massaging kale is our big trick for everyone
Yeah.
to really make kale taste better.
Yeah.
And so you put the kale in the bowl, you take it off the stem,
Yeah.
salt, lemon juice, olive oil, and you literally massage it.
Massage it.
And that makes your kale salad just taste amazing.
Does it get all the sort of the oil and the salt and the lemon
Yeah,
juice
and
kind
it
of
starts to
into the-
actually almost look
like
more
marinate a
wilted.
bit, yeah.
So kale for people can be kind of rough,
It's
and
rough
it's a
and
little
kind of-
dense, and you know,
I'm
so.
still not. Yeah.
All right, you got to try
Yeah.
this. It's gonna change everything.
I have a huge head of kale at home,
Really?
and normally
Yeah.
I saute it, and then it works fine.
Yeah.
But in salads, unless it's chopped really fine, like
Yeah.
ribboned thin,
Yep.
which then it's yummy. But getting the big frilly pieces in the mouth, and it's not very elegant, and you're kind of chewing it. I feel a bit cow-like, and I am, you know, you have gas, and you're like with this frill outside your mouth, and it's just so. And then you're
Try
crunching, and it's and the dressing is kind of apart.
Everywhere
from the, I want to massage
You
my
have a new trick.
kale.
Yeah,
I'm very
it's-
excited. I'm
yes.
gonna go and like, ooh, that's
So that's one of the kind of like cooking 101 tips that we give people.
And I think it gets them. It sounds like it gets them more in sort of sensual contact with the food, which for me is a big deal. If you don't feel connected to what you're cooking and feeding yourself or your family or friends, you know, that makes a big difference. I think.
Absolutely.
So that's a good trick.
So people always say to us, you must be eating like gourmet meals every night of your life, but we're really not. Our diets are so simple. We're eating, sometimes we'll eat the same thing, you know, for 2 meals out of the day. So we're really teaching that philosophy to other people. Find a couple things that work well for you and just repeat those. You know, you don't have to get that crazy. Maybe get creative like once a week or once every 2 weeks, but keep, you know, just a strong foundation with really basic meals.
Cool. So do you guys follow your own diets for the most part?
Yeah.
Do you ever break them?
We don't view it as breaking, you know, we
Yeah.
really,
But
the holistic approach is really listening to what your body wants. So if I'm craving a sweet, you know, I'm going to make a raw dessert. And we really do live what we teach.
Yeah,
That's
we
great.
we
That's
teach you know, a 90-10 rule. So it's like 90% of the time eat really well. That means eating home cooked meals made of whole foods, and then 10% of the time, you know, that means like when you go out to dinner, especially living in the city, if you're young, you're social, you don't want to be out to dinner and feeling so much anxiety about like, I can't even have a bite of gluten, or like, you know, so be realistic, and the anxiety that you cause yourself over not even having a bite of it is going to be more harmful than the actual gluten itself, you know, so we definitely teach a reasonable approach.
Oh, that's good. That's good, because it can be really, otherwise, you know, you're again going off and like, well, I might as well have this giant loaf of bread or whatever.
Right.
You know. So,
Exactly.
And I can imagine also, like, as you start changing the habits, the cravings themselves start you know, you like me with the apple. It's like, well, I kind of want the apple.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't feel bad about it even. Like, it's nice. You know, it's kind of weird, but it's nice. Like, the body itself is saying, no, but not so much. And I will still eat a piece of cake every now and then. Like, that's, you know, very human. But speaking of sweets, I want to, before we run out of time, because this is so fun, I could just keep chatting with these guys. Let's share what they have. They have amazing treats for us. And if I can get this, let me put this on. Here we go. Here we go. Da-la-la. We have a treat here for us. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Let's zoom out a bit.
There we go.
Look at this. So that looks so decadent and delicious and amazing, and you're going to now tell me that it's not, and it is decadent though. But it's not sinful. What are these?
Yeah, so these are raw
put them
chocolate
up
truffles.
here.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're not truffles. We also teach people how to make raw chocolate truffles, but these happen to be raw chocolate brownies.
Chocolate brownies.
We are definitely chocoholics, and we probably have chocolate every day. Honestly.
Oh yeah? Oh wow.
So these are raw chocolate brownies. They literally take 5 minutes to make. So if you have a food processor and a couple ingredients, you're good to go. So these are made of cashews, dates. So I'm glad we talked a lot about dates. So if you don't have any dates, go out and get them.
Now, is this whole dates or date syrup or something?
No,
or
whole dates. Yeah, you just have to make sure the pit is taken out.
No pits.
So cashews, dates, cacao powder, which is,
Like
for people
raw
that don't
cacao?
know,
Yeah.
raw cacao powder is, the most natural form of chocolate you can probably find. And a little bit of vanilla and a little bit of sea salt, and that's it.
So how do they get mushy?
So the dates are what help kind of
Pretty
make everything
sticky,
bind together. So you're just using a food processor with all those ingredients and process it until everything sticks together.
My God.
Press it into a pan, refrigerate it for a couple minutes, and then slice it into whatever you want it to look like.
Please,
into
can I
this.
just show? Look at these, and they're beautiful, and they look absolutely. They look like I want to eat them right now.
Try it,
I want to try some of
please,
this. Do you want to have some?
Yeah.
Eat with me. Oh, yum.
Thank you.
I'm just dripping this all over the equipment.
It never gets old. We eat a lot of this.
These are very, very good. We're going to post this recipe. Maybe share. They have on your website?
Yeah.
What's your website?
Absolutely. You can go to www.teamjna.com.
Is it A&D or an ampersand?
Yes,
Oh.
A&D. So teamjanda.com.
Awesome. We will, and I'll put a link to this recipe on my website as well, www.kitchen-intuition.com. These are amazing. So you have other recipes on your website as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys will find recipes on our website, and like we said, we like to keep the recipes super simple. Yesterday we put up, or 2 days ago, we put up a sweet potato pancake recipe.
Oh.
Really simple recipes, breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, and we'll also have information up there about our 14-day program. We also are starting to run some live in-person retreats.
Oh,
we
wow.
ran one recently in
exciting.
Boston, and that went really, really well. So we're planning on doing more
Maybe
of
I'll
those.
come by.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so amazing. I'm really glad that you guys could come and share your story and your work, which is so great. It's helping a lot of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, if if this sounds something that's useful to you, reach out and ask for help. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't be shy. Because there's so much more to gain from it. I know I have already in this short time today. And most of all, I got brownies.
We'll teach you how to make chocolate.
Oh my God. See you next time. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Raina. Bye, everybody.